Hello everybody, my name is Sean, and on this channel I typically do mini documentaries on bands that are lesser known but are very influential and I think need to be remembered for all time. And I've kind of been getting embarrassed about my lack of records because I used to have a pretty big collection. I bought a lot of records from thrift stores, I was given a lot of records, and just years of building a collection, and I had at least 1,200, maybe up to 1,400 records, and I had them all alphabetized and sorted by genre for a really long time, and I would let people come over and choose a record, and it was so much fun. Then when I moved out of my parents' house, I had to take all my records with me, which meant boxes and boxes of records, and that was the hardest thing to move, except for my bed. My bed is complicated, but other than that, the records were the only thing that was really troublesome. And then after a couple years, I wanted to start getting into real estate, and I had the idea that I was going to buy a house every year, which this channel might have kind of crumbled a little bit, but hopefully we can get back into the things. But the point is I wanted to downsize, and I figured I was just going to be hauling these records around when I wanted to be free and not tied down by anything, and so I started selling a lot of the records. But, of course, there's certain things that just are close to your heart, and so, of course, I didn't get rid of all of my records, and I have some of them here today with me. I know that there's a couple of boxes of records that I'm still okay with selling, and there might be some good records in there. I haven't looked at these ahead of time. I know that they're out of order, but I see the first couple here, and I was just going to go through these and kind of tell a bit of the story behind them, unless it seems like there isn't a story. But anyway, this first one that's on top is Nilsson Schmelsen, which I remember vividly the first time I listened to this because I was trying to join a band with this excellent piano player who I still play with today, and his crazy friend who he was writing songs with. And the three of us just sat down and listened to this record, and together we just laid down on individual sofas or whatever, and we took in Nilsson Schmelsen, and that's just one of those things that is always going to stick with me. And if you've never heard Nilsson Schmelsen, I mean, it's so incredible. It's the album that has the Coconut song, and it also has his version of Without You. And our local radio station here, 90.9, the community KRCO, they play Jump Into the Fire all the time. But some of these other songs are just classics, and they've been played on The Simpsons and all stuff. Falling out of the sleeve, but fantastic. And right under it is another Harry Nilsson album, but this is like a collection of early times. And the thing is, I'll always remember this one too, because, and I don't know if the Doors record is in here, but I met John Densmore at a book signing, and I got John Densmore to sign a copy of Waiting for the Sun. But I was actually buying this at the time, and I was wearing a Nilsson shirt, and John Densmore just took this from me, and he's looking at it, he's like, wow, Nilsson, like, how cool is that? And John Densmore is checking it out, and then he's like, what do you do? And at the time, I was playing drums in a psychedelic rock band, so of course that was my answer for John Densmore, the drummer of the Doors. So, yeah, that's cool. And I'm not sure if maybe this is one of the records that I was gifted from my friend Phil, but if it was, I would think it would be with my other Beatles records. I have a box specifically of Beatles records. Some of them I bought myself, but most of them passed down from this almost a mentor of mine, Phil Wilden. And thank you for that, Phil. But I'm not sure where this one came from. This one, Can Future Days, a fresh copy. I remember at our local CD store, Graywell, where they had this and a couple of other reissues, and it was when reissues or new reprints were suddenly becoming a thing, and I didn't expect to see it, and it shocked me in the store, and I was like, wow, even though I don't want to spend $35 on a record I've heard, I'm gonna, and yeah, I did that. What is this one? Oh, cool. Look at Yourself by Uriah Heep. I doubt it'll actually let you look at yourself. This is kind of cloudy. I can kind of see myself. Of course, the idea here is you got a mirror. Look at Yourself by Uriah Heep. I mean, it's just such a cool cover. And I don't know that I have much other Uriah Heep albums either, and I do like Uriah Heep. This is the Kinks' Lost album, which I actually don't really quite remember the story to this, but I think it's just like B-sides and rarities. Kind of cool. This is Visigoth, which is a local Salt Lake City band, and my friend Sterling actually did this album artwork. They're like a heavy metal band that I'm not 100% into, but they might be fantastic. I honestly haven't really given them as much of a chance as they probably deserve, but the artwork is my friend's, and yeah, sorry, I never actually spun this record. Here's another random Beatles record, which again, I'm not entirely sure how I got this. If this one came with Phil's records. Beatles at the Hollywood Bowl. I never spin them. Like, I wouldn't spin a Beatles record. This is cool. Genesis. I think I also bought this at Graywell. Yeah, that's a Graywell sticker for sure. Genesis' first album, and I think it's a reprint as well. Very cool, though. Here we go. Gentle Giant interview. I know I got a couple of Gentle Giant fans following me, so that is, I think, the only vinyl I have by them. Great album, obviously. Genesis, selling England by the pound. You'll find a lot of the records I did keep are just fantastic records, and that's why I kept them, because selling England by the pound. I mean, when you have 4 copies of Rumours by Fleetwood Mac, why does it even matter, you know? I mean, it's great. It's a great album. But this is one I'll hold on to for a long time. Oh, kiddo, don't get on the records. This is cool. Vanilla Fudge's first album. Also bought at Graywell. Pre-owned classic album, though. Very cool. Great album. A Treasure. Led Zeppelin 2. I've had this one for a really long time. Trying to think where would I have gotten this that has that sticker with this $11.99 on it. Might have been like a local used record store. Graywell is more of a new album store. Here's another random Beatles album. That, again, I'm not sure where I would have gotten these unless Phil gave it to me, but I could have gotten some other Beatles albums in other ways during the past. This is out of place because it was on my wall. This is Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Back in when I lived with my parents, I had this up on my bedroom wall, probably looking like this or whatever. What is that from? It's from the Carnival 9 album. Why can't I think of what it's called? You know what I'm talking about. That fantastic Brain Salad Surgery album. This is a local band from Utah, Your Meteor, and it's a kind of a proggy psychedelic band that's pretty cool, honestly. I think this was their second album, which I only listened to once or twice, but I liked their first album a lot and listened to it quite a bit. This was in the background of one of my videos recently, a Soft Machine, but it has David Allen on it. Of course, David Allen formed Gong after Soft Machine had gone to France, and David Allen couldn't get back into England because of his visa or whatever, and so he ended up just staying in France. If anyone can explain to me what's going on in the cover, that would be great, because we can see there's a saxophone player here. Like, it could be Hugh Hopper or Brian Hopper, but, like, it's not the Wildflowers. Like, what is going on here? Does anybody know exactly what's going on here? Because Soft Machine, at this time, did not have a saxophone player. They would have been the more classic bass, guitar, keyboards, and drums. Whatever, though. That's interesting. That's one that I bought from the UK. I had to actually buy that overseas because I was really interested in it. This as well, Gong's, the second one in their trilogy. The Radio Gnome trilogy. Super cool. Super, super cool. There's a lot going on here. It tells you a bunch about the story because it is a second in a trilogy. Very, very cool. Love that. This is some more Gong. This one, I believe, is the one that my mom and brother Jordan bought for me when they went to Paris, and I unfortunately have never been to Europe. And they were able to go and search out a Gong record. They unfortunately didn't find Magma, which I was also hoping they would be able to find, but this was something I'd never even seen before. Live, 1977, Floating Anarchy. Very cool. Very cool. Thank you, Mom. And here's the first one in the Flying Teapot, or the what is this? I don't know any of these albums anymore. Radio Gnome Invisible Part 1, Flying Teapot is probably what it is, I'm guessing. This is the one I've actually probably listened to the most, and it's so good. I love it so much. Besides like their first couple albums before this, those ones are great too. So cool. Just look at that. Gong is cool. This is Judicator. This is not opened. It is a Salt Lake City power metal band, and I'm typically not into power metal, but these guys are actually really amazing. And John Yelland, the singer on this, he's been on one of my Fazbuff Pell albums, and he's just a really cool dude, and I like supporting him. And this is actually doing so amazing. So many people on YouTube and stuff listing this in their top 10 power metal, and I'm just so proud of our Salt Lake City Judicator. Judicator, if you like power metal, get this Judicator album, Let There Be Nothing. They have another record coming out soon too. That is probably going to be really cool. This is Os Mutantes, something like that. I don't have perfect Portuguese. I don't know how to do Portuguese. This is fantastic. This is such a good album, and I'm so excited to talk about Os Mutantes and the genre, the style, the movement that they were part of, Tropicalia. It's so fascinating to me, and it's like some of the reason why I wanted to start my channel is to talk about Tropicalia. Yet I kind of got involved in some of the other genres I like, and this will have to wait. But so cool. This is one of my favorite albums of all time, Thick as a Brick, by Jethro Tull, of course. And what you notice right away is it looks like a giant newspaper, and Ian Anderson, the creator of this, states how making this album cover was actually more work. I'm trying not to make the record fall out. But look at this. It's just filled with jokes about non-rabbits, and it tells the story of how a little boy wrote the lyrics that Jethro Tull sings, though of course it's all farce. Ian Anderson wrote it all, and so cool. Must have for any record collection, even if you're not going to spin it, though this one I spun to death. Just kidding, it's still alive, but again, Tago Mago. I believe same thing. I bought this at Graywell when it was really expensive. And this is one of the ones that I actually spent money on. Look how cool this is. This is a masterpiece of krautrock. This album totally blew my mind when I heard it, 15 years ago or something. So cool. Super cool. This is Ray Manzarek and the Golden Scarab. Super cool album with a bunch of guest stars on it, like Flo and Eddie and Joe Walsh, and there's a bunch of people on it. Tony Williams on drums. Super cool. Super cool. Yeah, I like it, this album. King Crimson, Beat. I don't have many King Crimson albums. I love King Crimson. This is the Turtles, the Battle of the Bands, or the Turtles present the Battle of the Bands. So cool. I stinking love this album. Of course, in my video about the Turtles, I show all throughout this because they pretend to be a different band on every song. It's so cool. I just love this album. It's really funny, and the style changes every song, and it's really fun. They mock themselves, yet no one got the joke. Very cool. So next one, Caravan. If I could do it all over again, I'd do it all over you. So cool. I love this album. One of the things that always stands out to me is that there's 3 or 4 songs, maybe more, that have like a 5/8 or 7/8 type time signature, but it's such a poppy song that I feel like you could just show it to anybody and they'd be singing along to it. And I think more bands need to be doing poppy 5/8 stuff, Come on, guys, get with it. Speaking of poppy awesomeness, poppy but progressive, Joy of a Toy by Kevin Ayers. It's his first album, so one of the first in the Canterbury scene. And it's quite a bit different from a lot of other Canterbury bands. But he was on that Soft Machine album that I was talking about earlier as well. Here's another Beatles album. I think this one I probably found at a thrift store. Cheap. The Early Beatles, an American release of one of their first albums. This is a really cool album, The War of the Worlds. This tells the story of the War of the Worlds with music and sounds of the aliens, and it's got Justin Hayward from the Moody Blues on it, and there's a few other really cool parts. As a whole, it's awesome. I love this album. I like listening to the story, but it's something you can only take in maybe once a year, once every couple years, because the music is just really repetitive to a point. I mean, it's telling its story, and that's the purpose. So you have to keep that in mind. But it is still a prog rock album, really, and it's really cool. Here's some more Nilsson, The Point. It's awesome. My dad always would have us watch The Point when we were little, but I don't even know that he knew who Harry Nilsson was either, because so many people don't understand who Harry Nilsson is and how awesome he is. He had a movie called The Point, based on an acid trip, and he made this album, also based on his thoughts during that acid trip. It's a great time. I thought about covering that whole album. Like, what if I learned every song on guitar, just went up on stage and sang and told that story? I'd love that. Hemispheres by Rush. I had 2 copies of this, and this one, I guess, survived. I love Rush. Here's Tommy by The Who. I don't remember buying this one, honestly, but I remember regretting not buying it in the past. Ooh. Super cool. Tommy. Of course, if you don't know, Tommy is a 1969 rock opera that really changed things to a degree and became a movie in the 70s. Here, similar case, this is a 70s concept album that also became a movie, though I have not been able to find the movie for Redheaded Stranger. Were you expecting to see country? Here's Willie Nelson, Redheaded Stranger. This is a concept album, and so, being a concept album kind of guy, this is an album that really does it for me. He loses his wife and goes on a killing spree. How fun is that? So, then I have Stevie Wonder, Inner Visions. This is fantastic album. Totally blew my mind when I first heard this. I remember hearing it in the truck with my stepdad going to work, and oh man, just the tones and everything. Stevie just nails everything perfect. It's just like perfect. The only part of this album I don't really like is when there's just too much talking for part of the awesome track, Living for the City. It's just got too much talking at one point. Like, besides that, perfect album. Perfect. This one is another one that I just love for the cover, because it's supposed to have a 3D effect for The Low Spark of High-Heeled Boys by Traffic. Very cool. Very cool. And it looks like I only have one more record sitting here, but I do have more in the other room. If you guys want me to do a continuation of this video, please let me know down in the comments. Like, seriously, I'm not going to make another continuation of this unless you let me know down in the comments. So please let me do that, please. This is Nick Mason's Fictitious Sports, which is an interesting album because, so it's a Nick Mason, Pink Floyd drummer, solo album, and I guess it's been a long time since I researched this, so be careful. But anyway, he, I believe, had other material he was working on, but then he met Carla Bley, who is this wonderful jazz composer, and more. She's cool. And she ended up crafting most of these songs. I think there's one song where there's a different songwriter credit or something, but for the most part, this is Carla Bley's content, with Robert Wyatt singing on most of the tracks, which is great for us Canterbury fans. And, you have some trumpets and stuff on here. I don't know who the players are. Gary Valente, Mike Mantler. Of course, we got Nick Mason on drums. Additional vocals. I don't know these people. But, pretty cool. Anyway, this is the remnants of my record collection. There's another, probably the same bulk of this. The double what we saw here I have in the other room of good records, and then in storage I have boxes of records that I think I want to sell, like more copies of Fleetwood Mac, like just 58 copies of Fleetwood Mac or whatever. So anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment, give it a like down below, Let me know what you thought. I'm not sure if people want to see this kind of content from me, because I honestly, personally don't watch this kind of content. I made this channel to make mini documentaries that I would want to see, but I know people like getting into people's lives and really learning about the content creators, and I'm embarrassed I don't have all my records behind me. So, if you like this video, give it a like and a comment, subscribe to catch more, and until I catch you again, have a happy listening session.
He's got a real cute cat and he's talking about some random